I don't even know how to say finance. Financial. It's finance but financial.
Pwedeng finance, pwedeng finance.
But in the song, kasi 6'5", blue eye.
Oh my God, actually that song was actually describing the headquarters of my bank.
No way!
So when she was saying, and then there was this.
Are we allowed to have
Yeah.
this?
So then when there was
The
this
TikTok, the trending song.
and then there was another video that said like, where you can find that 6'5" blue eyes and in finance. And then the girl said, you can go to Stockholm, it's in this area. And I was like thinking, what area was that? And then I remember like, that's actually my headquarters.
HQ.
Yeah.
And with that, we open this episode of Case Drama. Hi, everyone. We are in our Singapore era. I'm so happy because I love this place. And all of you know that because I talk about Singapore all the time. It's the little red dot in the world that I love to go to. And today we are with my high school classmate, the person who influenced me to become a comtech major. So she is working at a Northern European bank. I needed my código. She's an economic strategist. Whatever that means, she will explain it to us. I am so intimidated, but too excited. Please welcome Eugenia Victorino.
Thank you, Kay, for having me.
Applause, please. We have 2 people watching. So we are here at the Como Metropolitan, and you can see Singapore. This is beautiful Singapore. This is Orchard Road, and yeah, hello.
Hello. I'm so surprised to be here.
We had one night like at, where was that? We were having drinks. It was like a wine place where I would do my Pilates. And you said something about your dream for other OFWs who also live in Singapore. And you said something about wanting to help them really save or do something good with their money because you see them working hard.
Yeah.
I don't know what you said to me exactly, but it stuck with me all this time. I did try to do a festival wherein we would get like sponsors to help us make seminars for these kababayans of ours, but it never happened. So today, this is, I guess, the shape and form that the seminar happens.
Yeah, so like actually, the first time that I had been exposed to the OFW life occurred long before I started working.
Okay.
It was when I was a student in Europe. And because I was looking for Filipinos to spend time with. I just missed speaking Tagalog. Diba?
Okay. And you are telling us that it is important to be multilingual.
Yes.
So
at the time I was in Italy.
Okay.
And then, we all know the movies that have been made about the OFWs.
Milan.
Exactly.
Anak ba yung isa? I think with
I'm not
Claudine
sure.
Barreto.
Basta yung Milan was definitely of Claudine, right? And it was around maybe 2004 before the financial crisis. Marami pang Filipino. And then I could see that some of them would really send a lot of money back home. And then they would come back to Italy in debt.
In debt. Okay, so
Yeah.
uuwi sila sa Philippines for vacation. Maybe
Yeah.
Christmas where the rates of the tickets would be super high.
Super high. Yeah.
So yun palang mali.
Yeah. Hindi naman necessarily mali yun kung pinagplanuhan mo.
Okay.
Diba? But then, like, what I noticed also is that, like, sometimes they would save to go home, but then they overspend when they're home.
Nanlilibre. ganon.
Nanlilibre, tapos lahat na lang ng kamag-anak, sumusulpot. Yung ganyan, parang there's no control and there is no intent
Okay.
to save.
Okay. When you say intent, can you define that for us? Because some people wish to save.
Yeah,
How
we
is
all
that
wish to
different?
save.
How is that different?
I think when you were living here or when you were working here, that was just my first year in Singapore.
Okay, so I was here for Kitchen Musical, and you were here for your first job.
For my first job.
Is it the same company that you're with
No,
now?
so I've transferred firms since then. But I remember I think I moved here in 2011.
13 years old ka.
13 years old ako. So, I moved here in 2011. And then like after a year, I realized wala akong savings.
1 year.
Anong nangyari?
So anong nangyari?
Anong
After 1
nangyari?
year? Kasi laki ng sweldo dito, but the cost of living is exag.
Okay, at that time, it wasn't that exag pa.
Exag means exaggerated.
Oh, yun.
But that's a Paveda
Yeah.
term. Okay,
This time, talagang todo exag na siya. But at that time, sabi ko, in my mind, I was saving. I
Okay.
was not traveling, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
and I was sharing flats with people. So in my mind, I was thinking, I'm not overspending. And I was trying to find those do you still, I don't know if there was this website in the Philippines at that time. It was Groupon, wherein you would buy
coupon?
like packages of services, and then it
Okay.
would really be discounted. So for example, if the normal massage would have cost you $50, but then if you buy it on Groupon, you get 3 massages for
What a
$90.
saving.
Ganyan. So akala mo, wow, save ako, di ba? Ang dami ko palang Groupon.
And you discovered this after a year.
After a year, I realized wala akong savings, but I was able to go home on the Christmas, ganyan. And then I asked some of our friends, like our friend here. And then she
Marianne,
said,
you want to say hi?
Marianne said that okay lang yon, first year you really don't save because you really have a lot of capital outlay. Because like when you move to a,
Please, what is that?
you're like, it's not an operational expense,
Okay.
right? Like when you move homes, you have to buy, I don't know, like a mattress, you
Washing
have
machine.
washing machine, yung mga ganyan, 'di ba? Na hindi naman gagawin every month. So okay, I told myself, baka nga 1 year talagang hindi talaga ako supposed to save. On the second year, hindi na naman ako nag-save.
And the realization happens year-end. Parang may report ka sa
Yeah.
sarili mo. Okay.
But then, like, even I think when I moved to Europe to study, I got into the habit of writing my expenses daily.
Okay.
So in my mind, I was responsible because I was keeping track of my expenses. But what I didn't realize was I wasn't allocating savings properly.
Okay.
And that's the problem usually.
Yeah, with a lot of people, like they say it's supposed to be a percentage. I see people have folders now for their savings. It looks a bit tedious, to be honest, but if you were to do it systematically, what would a good percentage be for savings?
I would say 20%.
Is conservative or ano?
At least.
Minimum 20%.
Especially, for example, in my case, as an OFW in Singapore, I don't have any retirement plans,
Okay.
right? Like, I don't have an SSS because I'm not a Singaporean and I'm
Got it.
also not a permanent resident. So, I need to make my own retirement plan. So, if anything, I actually need to save more than 20%. But how do you get to 20%? If you intend to save 20%, that better be the first line in your budget.
Okay.
It shouldn't be the
It shouldn't
residual.
be bag.
So, oo.
Okay. Because I do see a lot of people really drool for bags. And ako, sometimes I look at the bags. I'm like, thank you. I'm not drooling for you. Sometimes shoes, I will drool. But bags, hindi ko talaga kaya. So what do you have to say if bag yung number one?
Bag is not a savings.
No, because diba, and this is really offensive. They invented this thing called girl math. And it's like,
Yeah,
no.
I find that offensive, actually.
Yeah, a lot of things don't offend me, but that is like, Baka boy math. Why not, di ba? Di ba? Or I guess it's just one of those things. It's fake news that that's math at all. So I don't know why they had to tag it to girls, diba? Or shopaholic math, diba? Something.
I think, like, I understand. Okay, I don't totally understand, but like, there are some items that actually appreciate, but there are
Okay.
very, very few of them. But in any investment, no matter how good the investment is, what matters is what is the price you bought that investment, right? Because let's say bags na. Let's go to bags. Not all bags appreciate.
Okay.
So, what are the bags that they say appreciates? So, let's say Hermes. Not
Okay.
all Hermes bags appreciate. So, it's a specific Hermes bag. And if the actual price of that bag in the store, let's say, kasi hindi naman ako Hermes buyer, no? Assuming it's $15,000.
Okay.
But because you couldn't buy it in the store, you bought it at 22,000.
Oh, from a reseller.
Yeah. If you bought it at 22,000, you can fool yourself into thinking na, oh, tataas yan. Pero yung basic price niya was 15%. How long do you need to wait to recoup the 20% that you spent?
Got it. Yeah.
Right?
Now that
You
sounds
need-
like girl math.
So you need to wait unless you're already going to sell it immediately. But let's be real. You bought it at 20,000. How fast can you actually liquidate a $20,000 bag? And if anything, if you're in a hurry, you're going to be looking at liquidity, meaning the speed at which you can convert that asset into cash,
Okay.
right? So you have an emergency, you know that you paid 22,000 or $20,000 for that bag, but then you have an emergency. Then you're willing to sell it for what? 17,000. It makes you think, yeah, but it's still higher than the market price. It doesn't matter. You paid 20,000 for it. That's a loss. That's not
No,
a
but
profit.
you used it na daw, and then the number of times you use it, that's what you divide. That's what I saw in the girl math.
O, di wag ka na mag-bag na anything else. And also, if you keep using it, it will deteriorate.
Yun na nga. The deterioration. I saw a lot of that in my mom's bags when she moved out of their old home in Marina. And it really broke my heart to see all the bags like rot.
Yeah.
Because
Because of
they
the
do.
weather. Yeah.
Yeah, in the Philippines. So you're supposed to put it in a special room with all these things to make sure that the condition is mint condition, but
Yeah.
let's not kid ourselves. It will never be mint
It
condition.
will never be mint condition because you want to enjoy your bag.
Yeah, and
So
and I deserve
enjoying
this.
yes. Now, this is not to say that I don't buy
Yes.
luxury goods, right? I mean, I don't buy bags. It's
I
been
see.
years since I've bought a new bag. But then I also buy my own luxury. What makes me happy? But my luxury should not come at the expense of my savings. At the end of the day, my savings
okay.
is 20%.
Okay. And that's the first line. That's what
the
you're
first
saying.
line. And then after that, you have to control your housing expense. Some rules would suggest that your rent should not be more than 20% of your cash flow. So at the
Okay.
end of the day, you actually really need to know what is your cash flow. What is, if you're an OFW, how much does your family need to survive? Then, kung may birthday, teka, dapat ibang bucket yan. Kasi hindi naman every month may birthday yung anak mo, di ba? So, then you actually see which is necessity and which is just extra na biglang may nagkasakit. O, isa pa yan, you actually need to save for health issues. You don't want to get to the point wherein someone gets sick and then all of your life savings gets wiped out.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
All in one go.
All in one go. And that's very possible.
That happens a lot
That
in the
happens a
Philippines.
lot. So, what happens, right? Like, in my case, I also allocate medical expenses in my annual budget. Now, if in the event that don't end up using it, and I'm really happy if I don't, then that goes into my extra savings.
Is
Now,
that the bucket you're saying? It's an
no, there's the first savings is like your automatic savings. So what I do is the moment I get the salary, I have an auto transfer to another account.
wow. Okay.
I don't even see it at all. So,
okay.
assuming let's say 100 pesos or 1,000 pesos pumasok, immediate 200 tanggal na siya kagad sa available cash ko.
Okay.
And then I'm now down to 800, right? I need to live within that 800. Now, if I'm saving for luxury, for example, jewelry, then it needs to come from that 800, not from the 200 that I saved.
Okay.
Obviously, when that happens, medyo mas matagal kang makabili nung gusto mong luxury. But I think when you're dealing with limited resources, the truth is, I think you can have almost anything. If you really save, you can have almost anything, but you cannot have everything.
Okay. You can repeat that so that we'll get it and so that I will get it. You can have anything,
but not everything.
Okay. Because plus I don't need everything.
Yeah, not everything you want.
Yeah.
But like if you say, I remember, I think it was in 2014. I remember I said I wanted a Chanel bag.
Okay.
I don't remember how much it was. I think maybe mga 5,000 sing at that time. I said, okay, if I reach this salary, I'll buy it. But by the time I reached that salary, the Chanel bag had already gone up to around 7,000. Diba? Tapos naging 8,000. Then in my mind, in theory, I can have that. But I no longer want that because I want something else. Because if I were to get that Chanel bag, I'm not gonna get this piece of jewelry. So I can have it if I want it, but I can't have both.
Oh, okay. That's
So
a
I
lot
can't
of
have
control.
everything.
How does the control start? Because he said first 2 years in Singapore, zero savings ka or not savings that you're happy with. So,
Di zero talaga.
As in, hindi naman negative. Hindi ka naman
Hindi naman
umutang.
negative.
Oo.
Oo.
So, paano nag-shift? How did the control start? Was it a decision after the second year?
Yeah.
Kasi you failed for the second time, di ba?
Yeah.
Kumbaga, no savings ka pa rin by the second year. So, how did the shift begin?
No, then I became more conscious of like this. At the start of the year, I told myself I want to save this much by the end of this year. So I work backwards. If this is my expected income for the next 12 months, how much do I need to allocate? Now, spending is actually very seasonal, right? You have a spike in spending right before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes there's also an extra spending if I want to give a gift to my mom. So that's seasonal. Di naman nagpapalit ang birthday ng nanay ko. Di naman nagpapalit ang Pasko. So I can actually space out the budget. But what's important is that on average, I keep within that bucket.
Okay.
It's a bit easier for me because I really like Excel.
Okay, Excel file.
So,
Which you could now use AI if you don't know how to use the cells, right?
maybe, but I don't know. But like, let's say, so I have like the items that I have. Immediately, I have the savings. Then after that, I have housing. I have insurance. I have my retirement investment. Then it boils, and then I have like food. Then I have general expenses. Those general expenses are actually the ones that can be moved quite easily.
Not utilities and
No, utilities are
living
not
expenses.
something that you have control over eh. 'Di ba? Parang you don't know what would be the cost of electricity per kilowatt hour. Whereas your expense on
Transpo? Hindi naman.
transpo is a different, the way I do it, transpo is a different bucket because if I'm really saving, then I can actually limit the number of times that I take a cab. I can just take public transport.
Which I did today.
Very good for you.
Even with my maleta. I was like proud of myself.
Another one is like if you keep eating out.
That's me. Oh, what about eating out?
That's a lot of expense.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like, okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't eat out, right? Like, here in Singapore, there's a lot of Michelin star restaurants.
Yeah. There's also cheaper Michelin star naman.
Yeah. But like, if I want to go to an expensive
triggered.
Michelin star
Oh.
this month, I can't keep doing that every week. I have to be aware that, okay,
Talaga?
it's one of my
Shucks.
friends' birthdays and they want to go to this Michelin star. O, teka lang, the other weeks, mag-save ka naman
Okay. In preparation for that
in
big
preparation.
dinner.
And that's the way I would do it. Of course, it depends on what gives you the most joy. And only you can know. Like in your case, you said shoes give you joy.
Yeah, more than
Bags
bags.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parang I look at the bags, I don't drool. But when I did live here, I did spend a lot on food. And the happy thing was that a lot of Filipinos are in F&B. And I
Yeah.
did make friends with a lot of chefs. So I would have an allowance. And I did not want to use my savings from my actual sueldo.
Yeah.
And funny enough, whenever I would run out of allowance, I would meet a Pinoy chef. And one of them is a really good friend. Hi, Chef Rue, who opened up her own place in Manila. It's called Maker and Maid. But when I was here, she was feeding me a lot. And minsan may baon pa ako. One of the most memorable ones was pinagbaon niya ako. After yoga class in yoga movement, I went to Shucks, what was that? Common Man Roasters was her restaurant. And parang she made these power balls. And yun yung baon ko. Sakto naman, may sakit ako that day. Sabi ko, oh, may baon ako. I love the Filipino community here. And we did go to dinner during that shoot. And I did see another Filipino. Binigyan niya ako ng 2 trays of sashimi. So, diba parang, wow, thank you. Shout out to all the Filipinos in F&B here. So, it's kind of nice also that happens. But of course, that is a very special privilege.
Very few people will have that privilege.
Yes.
Right. But then if you had monetized that, diba? Can you imagine how much you would have spent?
Right.
But because you got it for free, then it actually freed up cash flow for other things.
Grocery. Ang mahal din
Grocery,
dito, no?
diba?
Oo. I had one contract. I tried so hard to be friends with everybody. I joined the Pokemon thing. And I would keep buying load. So I could
Oh.
keep playing Pokemon. Kasi sabi ko, parang naubos pera ko.
Oh, pero akala mo at first mura lang siya, di ba?
Yeah.
It's the same as my Groupon. Akala ko mura lang yung mura lang yung massage.
Tsaka may allowance naman ako.
Oo.
Diba?
Kasi hindi ka naging intentional.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to play, okay.
Yeah.
Pero dapat nilimit mo yun. Eto lang ako.
Tsaka yung bus stop ko kasi had a Pokemon there. So I loved buying the parang from the convenience store across the street, going to the bus stop, and then catching my Pokemon and then riding my bus
Did you
to work.
bother accounting how much you spent?
No, I just
Because if
knew.
you had, that would have, I think that would have compelled you to be more disciplined.
Yeah.
It's not knowing that makes the cash flow so fast. So I think that's the first thing. You need to know your cash flow. So you need to know where you can cut and where you can focus your energy on. I'm not naman saying na don't spend, diba? Parang just make sure that what you spend on is the one that really gives you the greatest joy. Hindi yung Parang, okay, Pokemon, did it make you happy?
No. I mean, I gained friends at work and it was quick because it was a quick contract. I didn't really have time to make friends. So it was just a way to have something to chat about. Pokemon was so in. I don't know. I don't even get the game, but I was just like, nee.
Sometimes you can justify it as like, tools of the trade.
Correct.
Ganyan.
Yeah.
Pwede rin naman. Pero dapat alam mo lang yung budget mo because limited resources need to be allocated efficiently. And there's always opportunity cost.
Okay, opportunity cost. Explain.
Opportunity cost is what you could have earned if you had not bought something.
Right.
Let's go back to the bag, right? If you bought it at 20,000 and you're expecting that the price of the bag will go up, but the real price of the bag in the store is 15,000, you're gonna have to wait that the second-hand market will go up in price.
Correct.
While you're waiting, the opportunity cost is like what you could have invested that 20,000 on and the interest that you would have earned. Because while you're waiting for the bag and while you're enjoying and using the bag, that 20,000 could already be earning around, how is it now, 4.1% for 3-month USD deposit.
I love how they know. They're like
3
nodding.
months deposit.
Yeah. So, kung ano yung sinayang mo, that's
Kung
the
ano yung
opportunity
sinayang
cost.
mo.
Yeah.
Now, one other rule that I follow, which is very basic economics,
Okay, tell us.
is marginal cost versus marginal benefit. Okay, let's put it down to what does it mean?
Okay, what does it mean?
The Chanel bag,
Okay.
when I wanted to buy it, was 5,000.
Right.
I felt that at 5,000, sakto siya sa kasiyahan na bibigay niya sa akin. Sakto lang siya. Okay? So I was willing to pay 5,000 the moment I could afford it. But by the time I could afford it, it became 7,000. That meant I need to spend 7,000. Then I need to assess, is the 7,000 equivalent to the happiness that it will give me?
Which was
Hindi na.
5,000 worth, yeah.
Oh, hindi na. So, hindi ko na siya bibilhin.
So,
Maski na-afford ko na siya. So, the marginal benefit was actually the additional happiness that it gives me. If the additional happiness that gives me, in my estimate, is just 5,000, but I need to spend 7,000, which is your marginal cost, then your marginal cost is higher than your marginal benefit. So, in my mind, talo kagad ako kasi parang
Hindi na siya sakto lang.
hindi na siya sakto
Or
lang.
saks lang. Sorry.
Saks
lang.
Bago ba yan? Millennial ba yan?
You've been away for so long. Saks lang.
Saks lang. Oo. Hindi na siya saks.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up, to be honest. But yeah, so I guess just the same as having to keep up with slang and all this lingo, there are some words that we could, and terms that we are learning from you today. And I guess it's not as overwhelming because you're laughing and you're so beautiful. So it's kind of digestible, I think. So, okay, we're going to take a break and just breathe. Finance is a subject that I think I got a C in college. So that's not very high. I mean, it's not even saks lang. That's pretty low. But yeah, having this conversation with you, at least I feel like, it's not as intimidating as it normally is. And I think one of the problems we have in our country is that we're not comfortable talking about money. Is that true? I mean, in your eyes, is that a problem?
Not necessarily. But like you don't necessarily need to disclose everything, right? But as long as you know who to trust. Because at the end, like, if you don't know how to manage your finances, there are professionals that know how.
Okay, so
there are bankers, right?
But how would you know how to
make
pick?
sure you go to a regulated agent.
Okay, a regulated agent in an actual bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because,
so-
scams and
Exactly.
scammers, are everywhere. So, a trusted agent. How would we find a trusted agent?
It's not difficult. You just go to your a retail bank, and there's always a person there. On the sides, not on the teller.
Okay.
The ones on the sides, they are the ones that know the products that are available. For example, they can tell you that there are unit funds that you can buy. You can buy in dollar funds, you can buy equity funds, you can buy bond funds. And then you know that that money is actually handled by a proper institution.
Got it.
But because I think these scams occur because people fall for the easy money.
It's so attractive,
It's so
no?
attractive. If it's too attractive, it must be wrong.
Right.
It
Yeah,
must
yeah,
be
yeah.
a
That is
scam.
that is usually my rule. Like, what's the catch is the question I like to ask. And I think another big red flag would be if it's a friend and then they just offer you like something and ang ganda ng returns tapos 3 years later it's like where's my investment? Where is it going? And it's hard. I don't know if that happens to a lot of people, but I'm very, very happy, for example, with my investment sa karaoke. So, as of now, we are opening one in Green Hills. It's something I was passionate about, especially in the beginning. Sabi ko, if I'm going to pick a business, I don't want to do a food business. At that time, I wasn't into food as much as I am now. So, it worked out that, karaoke also has good food,
Yeah.
and everything.
And it's so embedded in the culture.
Yes. I didn't think it would work in the beginning, but I was like, maybe I'll take this risk, and it's doing very well. We're opening our third Rockstar branch, and we still have one Center Stage branch, but we might consolidate and make everything Rockstar KTV. Because before I remember one of our first rooms in QC, we had a room this big and it had a divider in the middle, thinking people would want small rooms. Apparently they want bigger rooms,
For
like
parties,
100,
yeah.
whatever. And it's quite affordable because I just had a group of 50 the other day. Sabi ko, this is so affordable because I was comparing with the other restaurants I wanted to eat in. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good alternative. And I guess it's a good clue when it's your passion.
Yeah.
Like, if it should fail, I was so passionate about it. Like, diba? I want it to succeed. So, I think that drives it to be better pa nga eh.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice that it actually worked out, right? And you also knew what songs would work, and you also know all
The
that,
trends then, yeah.
not just the trend, that Filipinos are really into karaoke.
Yeah, but we didn't think they were that into karaoke. I think
Talaga?
we knew they were into it because this is more than 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
I think the one we replaced at that time was IOKTV. So we replaced that in Makati in the Jupiter branch, which has closed because of the pandemic. And yeah, sabi ko, I know this branch will work because people already go there for KTV, but I think it's just really blown up to be something that, wow, thank you, Lord, it really works. But we did have a scary moment during the pandemic when we were closed because you have to pay the rent and then it's
It would have
closed.
been scarier if you had gone into that investment with debt.
Yeah, there was some debt because,
Yeah.
you have to get some funds from the bank. But
Yeah.
because it is a pretty big investment.
Especially now when interest rates are actually quite high. If we go back to opportunity cost, it was actually, I would have expected that it was easier for you to do that investment when interest rates were low. Because these days, at the current level, there are some corporate loans that could easily be charging you, 11% interest rate. Nakakagulat. Diba?
Wow, 11.
But before, hindi gumaabot dun eh. So it would have been easier to do that investment at that time. But if your interest rate that you're paying is 11%, you better make sure that your earnings are much higher than 11% just to be able to cover your expenses and then even turn a profit. The question of investing with friends or with family. How close are you? Right? Also, like, even if you're that close, are they actually knowledgeable in that industry?
Yes. Do they have an actual business plan? Is
Yeah.
another question, yeah.
Do they have a business plan? Do they have do they know how to raise funding for that business? Because are they expecting you to just give the money and then they will just be the managing partner? Parang I think what's important, if you're going to be asked to invest, it's important that the person that you're investing in also has skin in the game.
Got it.
Kasi if that person stands to lose his or her own personal wealth, then your incentives are aligned. Right? I'm always wary when people say I'm going to be the managing partner and you're going to be the investor. Teka lang. Parang medyo mahirap 'yon. Diba?
Especially if they don't divulge all the information right away.
Also,
I guess that's a
like,
good
get a
rule.
good lawyer. Right?
Gosh, makit ulo ko. No, these are things that you have to know because I went on my friendship over just because
Yeah.
of a failed investment. And every investment is always a risk.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to tell people. You're going to invest, yes, but it's still a gamble.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, be ready to lose that money. Are you going to be okay if you lose that money? Those are the questions that you just have to
But
face.
you don't necessarily need to take on high risk for investment.
Yes. So what are like comfortable risk?
For me, I'm a very conservative
Talaga?
investor.
Even if you are very knowledgeable?
I would say those that are in the sector are more careful.
I didn't know that. I would think you would be like,
So Mariana's
yeah.
there.
Do you have a phone-in question?
Phone-in question.
Come.
From
Have
a
a phone.
bond specialist. Are you investing
Are you
in
allowed
bonds?
to ask? What's your phone-in question? Do you want to be on cam or off cam? Off cam. But you'll need the mic. So here you are. Phone-in question about conservative and not too risky stuff. Come. Don't worry, you're not seen. Okay. Baka ma-trouble ka sa work. Hindi ka nagpaalam.
Yung nagpaalam. Walang compliance.
Correct. Siguro, what are the best places to park your money?
And how long is parking?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what would be your horizon or your risk profile? And
Wow, okay.
objectives.
Definitely.
Wait, let's
Those
define
are-
the terms first. Okay. Horizon and risk profile to the non-savvy. What does that mean?
So you see, if you go to a regulated professional, like someone working in a bank, they would always ask you to fill up this risk profile to assess whether you are a conservative investor or not. Do you actually have the minimum knowledge to invest in a certain product?
Ooh, minimum knowledge. So how do you acquire that knowledge kung wala?
So kung wala, then the banks are required to limit the products that they sell to you.
But you can't learn it. You can't go on a seminar.
You can learn it. You can learn it.
Okay.
But I'm a bit cautious when people say that, like I'm following this influencer and doing this. Then we're like, teka lang, you have to know when the market is rising, because when the market is rising, people are so excited. They don't realize that they're just rising with, like when you have high tide and low tide, diba?
Okay.
High tide, everything rises.
Okay.
But investment is not a high tide all the time.
Okay.
Sometimes it goes down. You have to be aware that when it goes down, you're not gonna be drowning in debt.
Okay.
So, and then when she asked, what is your horizon, your investment horizon?
does that
That's
mean?
very important because, for example, if you're, I don't know, maybe 25 years old, just fresh from school, you can easily say that your investment horizon is more than 15 years, in which case you can take more risk.
So investment horizon is the time that I will be investing
That I will need the money
back.
back.
Okay.
Now, for example, if you're maybe 55, you're getting near retirement, baka dapat your investments should not be as aggressive because you need to prepare for the time that you would need the cash flow. For example, as you get older, once you retire, your income, if you have a retirement fund, you still have inflow, but it's not the same as your income when you are actively working. When you're retired, you would have more medical expenses. So you need more steady cash flow, which means your investment, your risk profile should be lower. You shouldn't be so aggressive in buying these new and hot stocks.
Which apparently, as you're saying, may mga influencers who talk about it and then that's why they rise. Ganun ba yan?
No.
Hindi
So
naman.
like I remember during the pandemic, so as I was telling you, like makeup, watching makeup
Tutorial
videos
videos. Okay.
is my joy. So so I was so surprised when some of the beauty influencers that I was following started to talk about the Philippine stock market, how
Okay.
they bought this stock at it was just 5,000 and now it's like 7,000. At the time, a lot of the markets in the world was going up. Not every market is always going up. So now that it has gone back down, now you will know who is the real investor and who was just gambling.
Okay. Oh,
You know?
man. Uh-oh.
Because one of the abilities of a professional fund manager is to diversify the investment basket.
Okay. Is that the portfolio?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, galing mo ah.
I know one thing.
Natatandaan mo pa. Oh, if you're a retail investor, the likelihood is that you don't have enough cash to buy 20 stocks.
Okay.
Diba? You will probably have maybe 5. But then when you have a diversified portfolio, you actually need more than 5 because you need those stocks to be not correlated. What is not correlated?
Okay.
Dapat meron kang stock that will go up when others are going down or will go down less than the others. Right? And that diversifying factor is what differs a professional investor to someone who's
Guessing also.
Yeah.
Making educated wishes, as Deadpool and Wolverine said.
Actually there are studies that a lot of retail investors when they do stock trading,
Okay.
90% of the time they lose money. That's how high
And
the
that's
failure
supposedly
is.
conservative pa?
No.
Ay, hindi naman.
Oo.
Okay.
It's kaya that the reason why they lose money is because they're not conservative enough. If you work in a bank, there are risk managers. There are those that will tell the traders, you have to stop that position because you're losing money now.
Okay.
But when you're a retail
Is
investor,
that a check and balance?
that's a check and balance.
Okay.
And that's a regulated
Okay.
activity. But when you're a retail investor, first, you're not trading 8 hours a day. So you don't even know what this insurance fund is doing. By the time you hear the news, they've already done their trade. Tapos na. Diba? So you don't have the same kind of you don't have the same information that professional traders do. So you can't expect that you will outperform the market. It's very unlikely that retail investors are able to outperform the market consistently. So that's why I actually prefer buying funds. So when I say that 20% of my salary immediately goes into saving, that is immediately activated into fund investments. If I have extra savings, because for some reason, for the last 3 months, my spending was below my allocated spending, then that's what I use for trading.
Okay.
Of course, I'm not saying that's what everybody should do, right? But for me, kasi extra na lang naman siya eh. Maybe I can invest in the stocks that I really believe in.
Okay. So do you go by what's good in the market or by things you're passionate about? Or it doesn't matter if you're connected, like emotionally connected to the product.
There are some that I really know, which means that if I feel even if there is a 20% decline in the stock price, I will hold on to it.
Okay.
But just to give you an idea, I'm in front of the Bloomberg terminal 10 hours a day,
Wow. Okay.
5 days a week.
How many
But
items
I
are
still
there?
made mistakes.
Yeah, but how many items are there on that terminal? Like,
Well, it depends because
it's kind of like in the airport, right?
yeah.
The flights that are coming in and out. It's kind of like that. And then it's moving. Is it the same? Or?
Yeah, so it's actually I remember when I first saw a dealing room, I was so fascinated because the traders had at least 3 or 4 screens.
Okay.
And then they were all like green and green and black. And then suddenly you would have like red flashes because they were like news headlines that would affect the market. Then you kind of learn to read things on the screen quite fast. So one benefit there is that when I travel, I can read the signs fast also.
So you could work in the
I can
airport.
fast, parang, nag-change ako ng gate, okay, kita ko
Got it.
kagad yun. Hindi ako nalo-lost. Kasi I'm quite used to looking at different screens.
Wow. So things change that fast. Can you ever take a banyo break? Do you have lunch break even?
I'm not a trader, so yes, I can. But then like there
Yung traders, are they on the floor lang?
No, so like they take turns.
Okay. So somebody's always keeping watch.
Yeah. And then like if in an international bank, the trading book would transfer from one region to the next. So for example, if we have a trading team in New York, then when the trading team ends their day, then someone comes in from Asia. You can have, if you have a trading team in Australia, then they will just get it from New York. If you don't have a trading team in Australia, then a trader in Singapore will have to come in at 6 a.m.
Wow. Okay.
And then you transfer the book to the trader in London or somewhere in Europe because then you can leave at around 3 p.m. and then they have the book. And then Europe closes, then they give it back to New York.
So it sleeps, but it's because you're doing some kind of a relay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But there are traders that even if they have physically left the office, they still have Bloomberg on their phone and they see where the price is going. So like let's say last week was quite brutal for global markets. So there were some traders that even though they were on holiday, they were calling to cut positions, like to exit certain trades because the market does not wait for anyone.
Right. Even if you're on vacation. Gosh. So we were talking earlier before we started, and you said you had a realization because of how volatile the market was last week.
Yeah.
So what did you want to share that?
Yeah, so like, like in the market, everybody's talking about the themes of the year. And everybody,
Themes?
yeah.
Okay.
So like actually every year
I
you
want to
have
say like
investment themes.
costume theme ba yan? Lala. What is a theme?
So I said, right, in the Philippines now the interest rates are very high.
Okay, yeah. 11?
And-
Did you say 11%?
No, some corporate loans are around 11%.
I
But not
only remember
everyone.
because 11 is K in the alphabet. So if
Ah,
naubo ka, 11, K.
okay.
So, yeah, that's meaning case drama. You're watching case drama.
Okay.
Wait. Sorry, Ging, my brain. Okay.
So if it's the reason why yung interest rates in the Philippines could be 11%, but actually the base rate or the central bank rate is lower than that. Is because inflation started to go up, but also interest rates in the US were also increased very fast. Right? Now, when your interest rates are very fast, it actually limits your ability to invest, right? So when that happens, then your economy slows down. Then your central bank will then lower the interest rates because they were already able to control inflation. Because they only raised the interest rates because inflation was so high. And that's also true in the Philippines, right? Like, I remember like when I just went home now, and then in Terminal 3, there's this foreign burger chain.
Okay.
Can I say it? No.
Yeah.
Okay. So Shake Shack, right? In Terminal 3.
Yeah. I saw
So
it.
I was so happy that I bought a shake. But when I convert it, the shake in Terminal 3, the Philippines, is around $6 Sing. 6.50, like that. Which is not far from the cost of a Shake Shack shake here.
Okay.
So you can see that the inflation in the Philippines is also quite high. Kasi bakit siya masyadong malapit sa prices sa Singapore? Or even the cost of food, like we have dogs in the Philippines. The cost of dog food has really risen in the last 3 years.
I'll try kamote. My dog eats kamote and eggs. I don't know if they can still shift, but yeah.
Diba? Parang why did you shift to kamote? Kasi mahal.
No, we always had kamote because it's less salty.
That's true. But did the price of kamote go up too?
I don't know, minsan nililibre ako ng driver ko.
Eh, mahirap naman yan.
Dami
Hindi
nalilibre
naman
sa
lahat
akin, no?
ng tao may star factor.
Oo nga. Thank you, Kuya Arnel. But people love giving me food. I don't know.
Paano ba naman yan? Ang
Yeah,
hirap
sometimes
naman
kindness
yan.
also helps.
Pero parang ako, I know that the cost of dog food has really risen. So if all the cost, if your cost of living has risen, then central banks in the world will have to step in and say, look, wait, your price increases are too fast. That means the economy is rising too fast. We need to slow it down. We need to slow down the demand. So that's why they raised the cost of credit. That's why they raised the interest rate. Now, when the interest rate goes down, enough for the central bank to say we've done our jobs, we can now lower the interest rate. That's the theme for 2024.
Does it mean it's just best to be conservative all the time?
Ano?
Not then. Okay.
Because that will also have an opportunity cost.
Okay.
Right? If you invested very conservatively, then the opportunity cost is you could have actually earned a higher return by taking on a little bit more risk. I remember, I think there's a certain generation, I think our parents are very conservative. They think property and savings in the bank deposit, that's all there is to it.
Buying
Oo. Lupa at saka dapat may cash ka sa bangko. But there's actually more products available. And a time deposit is not necessarily the best investment.
And time
Of
deposit is
course.
3 months ba?
Pwede rin mga 12 months. But you know, in the last 12 months, a time deposit suddenly became a good investment.
Ah, okay. For the
Again,
theme. For the theme
because
of
it was
2024.
in 2022 and 2023. Because the interest rates were so high.
Okay.
But before that, for like 10 years before that, the interest rate in a USD deposit was so low. So it did not make sense to keep money in cash. So if you had kept your savings entirely in a time deposit or just as a savings account, the opportunity cost was the return that you could have had if you had invested somewhere else. Like even if you had just invested in a bond or if you had just invested in stocks. Kasi wala ka talagang kinikita
gosh, yeah.
10 years ago.
I didn't know this because in my head, all the conservative moves that I maybe inherited or learned from my parents would be applicable every year and forever.
No.
Because there are themes. Oh,
There are
I didn't
themes.
even know
Yeah.
that. I guess with makeup, with fashion, there are trends. Similarly, with finance.
But it's like that. Just like in fashion, right? It goes back.
Cyclical din siya.
Cyclical din siya.
Okay, well, that's an easy way to put it, and it's not so intimidating. So,
And it's also like whenever you have high inflation, paano kung yung inflation mo in the Philippines was around 5% and you were just earning what, 3% on deposit? Investment ba talaga yun? E talo ka na.
okay, because we always have to be aware of the inflation
Yes,
rate.
you have to beat your inflation just to make sure that you're breaking even.
Got
Because
it.
you're investing for the future, right? Like if you invest 100,000 now, you don't want to be in a position that like in 20 years your 100,000 is still 100,000 because that 100,000 will not buy you much by the
Yeah.
time you retire. It needs to be higher than what it was when you put it in so that it covers your needs when you're retired.
When you retire. And I guess that's one word that you've mentioned so much in this conversation. And it's because you think about your future. So
I would like to think so.
it's not every day that you hear somebody talk about retirement this much. And I think it's a good time to explain to them that, you know, when you try to save for your retirement, you have to put into consideration inflation, which you're telling me I have to always be aware of it pala, more than the chismis that's circulating on my Facebook feed.
I think so.
Can you just say it so that we have a sound bite that, you know, be aware of inflation
be
rates.
aware of inflation because inflation can eat into your savings.
I did not know that.
And that's why a lot of people are attracted by high returns when you invest in a business because for a long time they were not earning on a savings account. It was not enough. Also, if you think about what has happened to the peso exchange rate, parang feeling mo kagad talo ka na. Kasi parang,
Yeah.
if you remember, you could buy this much in the
grocery,
US. If you travel, diba?
Yeah.
The only country that makes you feel kind of rich is when you go to Japan.
Especially this year.
Yeah.
So much so that there were so many videos on Instagram Reels saying that you should invest in property in Japan.
Oh?
We should just do a reaction video of you looking through these reels. Yeah.
I think so. Property really needs to look at what are the drivers of property.
Okay,
The
what are
demand,
drivers?
right? In Japan, you know that the population is actually going down. So if you buy property in Japan, who would want to buy that property?
Purchase
who
or
would want
rent.
to rent that property if the population is actually going down? If you compare the population in Japan to the population in the Philippines, I would think that investing in property in the Philippines would have a higher rate of return. Because just think about how many people would want to buy their homes, right? Like, or even if it's just like a small condo, because actually things have changed. I remember when we graduated from college, very few of our batchmates would think about moving out.
Yeah, independent living.
Yeah. That change in living conditions is actually adding to the demand for housing in the Philippines.
Okay, yeah.
That's not necessarily the case in Japan, right? Or like if you want to buy property that's going to be developed in the other cities in the Philippines. So for example, like Cebu, Davao, like, or Bulacan or Batangas. If you just think about the possibility that there will be a road that immediately pushes up the property value. That's not necessarily the case in Japan, right? Because like if you think about it, if there is no young population in a particular site in Japan, why would the government develop the infrastructure there? If anything, some places in Japan are already closing their train stations.
Oh, is that right? And this is like what you're saying is a driver, like,
Yeah.
is a big factor.
A big factor is the income growth of the people and the number of people. Like let's say here in Singapore, you have a very small population, but there is a substantial population of foreigners that is actually adding to the demand for rental homes. So you may not see the increase in population from the birth rate, but you can probably see it from the inflow of migration. In the Philippines, you're going to see the increase for demand in housing just from the birth rate. It's a
And
very
as
young
you're
population.
saying, graduates.
And
Because
graduates.
that's the trend. No? They
Yeah.
want to be independent. Parang gone are the days of the sheltered, overly sheltered
Of living with your
kids.
parents until you
Yeah.
have 3 kids.
Yeah, parang they're being kicked out finally.
Yeah.
I guess less complications. But, the family unit is still intact.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the family less close.
No. Yeah.
So I think they're realizing that slowly.
Also, one of the sources of demand for condo living in Metro Manila is the fact that the traffic is so terrible.
Malayo ka na sa family home.
Malayo ka sa work mo. Diba? So, for example, if your job is in BGC and your family home is, I don't know, further north, like let's say, or
Cainta.
east. If it's in the east, if you live in Cainta, parang 3 oras ka sa kotse,
And
diba?
that's just too much opportunity cost.
That's a lot of opportunity cost.
Because that's another thing in the Philippines. I can't believe that people don't think that the time you waste in traffic is actually money wasted. It's like, let's think about it in terms of money.
Yeah, efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very difficult to travel to the Philippines if you're a business traveler.
Correct.
Because
The way your mind is wired, you're already like counting the money you're losing.
you realize that in the Philippines, we don't actually have a very good grasp of distance. Like we talk about like, okay, how far is BGC from Cainta? Oh, 3 hours. Distance ba yun? Time yun eh, hindi yung distance.
Yeah. Time wasted for sure.
Diba?
Yeah. So
But in other countries, they talk about 200 kilometers. In my mind, ano ba yung 200 kilometers? Ito ba yun? Diba?
Yeah,
Parang
yeah, yeah.
When we grew up, we had this idea, this is 1 yard. Ano yun?
Yeah.
Diba? Parang we don't have a concrete
yeah, and we see that.
concept
Yeah.
of distance.
I think we see that a lot also when there are floods.
Yeah.
Hanggang tuhod,
Yeah.
lagpas tao.
So yung short distance, actually, you're gonna have to find an alternative route.
Correct.
which makes distance irrelevant na. Kasi umikot ka na eh, di ba?
Yeah, well, just one of those many problems that we have. But I think we've covered a lot. So I think I just want to go back to that thing about retirement. So you're looking at your retirement, you're looking at inflation. How does one begin to explain to their family that they have to save for retirement? Because that's a sensitive topic because it is understood that in the Philippines, you take care of your elders.
Yeah.
So how do you...
As you should.
Yeah, of course. But
Yeah.
also remind them that they also have to factor that in, diba?
Yeah.
In their daily lives. What is a conservative inflation estimate for the next... Ano ba dapat ang
If
i-estimate
the
na 10
central bank
years?
governor in the Philippines is very good, and usually they are, then the inflation in the Philippines should not go beyond 4%.
Okay.
Because their target is 2 to 4% every year. So the central bank has a target.
Okay.
You can they are accountable to that. They have to
So-
explain to the Congress if and when the inflation is higher than the 4%. They have to explain why did that happen? Why did they not act sooner?
Oh, that's the check and balance. And
That's-
it's actually...
They are accountable to that.
And they're good at it. I'm glad to know.
Most of the time, they're good at it. Yeah.
So, conservative na yun, na
4%. sabi
when
mo.
you compute your retirement fund, that's the inflation that you're
Yeah.
computing.
But in
Ah.
my case, because I work in the Philippines, I also take note of the exchange rate.
Okay, sorry, you work in Singapore.
Yes.
Okay. So you take note of the exchange rate. Okay.
Because will that allow me to save less? If the peso is weakening, can I expect that the peso will always weaken? Because it's not true, that the peso is always weakening. There are times when the peso is actually strong.
Okay. That's for the OFWs. Okay.
Yes.
That is for you guys.
Yeah. So, like for a lot of OFWs, or actually if you're sending money to the Philippines, most of the time your family would say they need, I don't know, 30,000 pesos, regardless of what the exchange rate is of where you're working in, right?
Oh, okay.
Kasi sa kanila, they need 30,000 to pay rent, to pay for car, to pay like this, diba? Pero ikaw, as an OFW, you're aware if the exchange rate goes from 57.50 to 58 in 1 month, 'di ba? That matters
Inaabangan
to you.
mo yun, eh, no?
Inaabangan mo yun.
Oh,
But there are
gosh.
times also that 57 can suddenly go to 55. Then, from the OFW's point of view, pag nag-55 yon and your budget was 58 yon, that's going to eat into your expenses abroad,
Yeah.
not in the Philippines.
I mean, that's a tough conversation to have, especially Christmas time, especially when the guilt sets in that you're far away from your family. And we've heard that story a lot. So I don't know if you're the one to give the advice, but is there something you can say from your own experience about how you deal with, but you never have to send naman money back home, but
I do.
you're not like, it's not the same as parang, sige na, wala mo na ngayon. Do you give any advice to people you've encountered? Yung parang OA na yung padala mo, magtipid ka naman. I mean,
You need to know what are the needs
okay.
and what are the wants. Ngayon, kung yung anak mo gusto lang ng bagong phone dahil nawala niya yung phone, baka okay lang naman na wala siyang phone. Diba?
I love the delivery.
Okay lang naman yun. Di naman
Nawala
siya
naman niya eh.
Nawala naman niya, diba? Or kung gusto niya ng magandang rubber shoes, teka lang, what did you do to earn that? Whereas, the OFW abroad, diba? Parang, not everyone is a professional
Yes.
right? So, they really sacrifice a lot just to be able to send
Yep.
money for that new phone. it's not a toy. For them, it's a toy, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's where it's important again. You need to know the cash flow of the family. Like, kailangan nila ng feed for the chickens. Diba? Tunay bang kumikita ka dyan sa chickens mo? Or baka naman lagi kang nananakawan? Inaalagaan mo ba yung farm mo talaga? So, the OFW, I think, would need to make sure that their family is also accountable to them.
Okay. Kind of like what we were talking about, the friends who are the managing partners. Yeah, everyone has to be accountable because everyone is working hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is our wish that everyone is able to save and also be ready for retirement one day.
You know, actually, there is one saving instrument that is very attractive for OFWs, the MP2.
What is this MP2?
Tell us. It's a pag-ibig product. So, it's not a fixed income. But every year, they give a return, and it's usually much higher than what you would get as an interest on a savings deposit.
Okay.
And if you're an OFW and you just go to an embassy, then you ask them about the pag-ibig, and then MP2 is a very, very good product.
This is in any country. It's probably, in
because
every
it's
country.
Because if you're an OFW and you're properly documented.
Okay, this is your...
Yeah, and then you want to have, because you can continue paying your pag-ibig.
Okay.
Even from abroad. You can continue paying your SSS if you want to do
So
that.
it's like a privilege for OFWs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So MP2 is, I think, is a very, actually, I didn't know about that for a long time. Then I realized, teka, parang sayang yun na. Parang ang ganda
opportunity
kasi.
cost.
Oo, opportunity
Nasayang.
cost.
Okay. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, we learned a lot. I don't know. Information overload. Should we go on? Maybe we'll do a part 2. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you because I know you were surprised when I reached out about the podcast, but you know, I do limit it for now to people I know personally and people who have influenced me greatly and people I look up to.
Wow, grabe.
Hindi. You can ask anyone who's listened to everything, and it's that. And I'm very lucky because I have surrounded myself with good people and a lot of people who teach me things that otherwise hindi ko alam. Like for example, my course in college is BS Management, major in Communications Technology Management. Did I find that by myself? No, it was Ging.
We were in the same
Eugenia.
course, diba? In the first semester.
Because I did go through the school brochure and I didn't understand what I wanted. And somehow you knew that, I guess you go to your future thinking, how you think about retirement. I think you kind of figured that it was a new course and it was quite attractive at the time. I wanted to bring it up because I was eating out the other day and there were college students talking about guys na parang, oh my gosh, he's management. Red flag. And I was like,
bakit?
I don't know.
Ano yung green flag?
Red flag na parang...
Red flag na ba yung management? Okay na nga yan
Natatawa lang ako because it's just a casual convo within, like a safe space, but they don't know I was eavesdropping. And then, Comtech comes up. And I was like, okay, tana, it's my course. Comtech. Oh, why does that course even exist? And I was just like, it was the most high-tech course in my time.
Things have
why
changed.
does that course even exist? I was just like, but our tagline back then was Comtech is high-tech because it was the newest course back then.
You know, I think, like, courses in university, it doesn't really matter what your course is because what matters is the skills that you learn.
Correct.
It depends on the field, obviously. Like let's say
You started Comtech and shifted to...
BS Math. Wow. So like after one semester, I shifted to BS Math and then I did a double degree into economics.
Wow.
But you know, it doesn't. Actually, like a couple of months ago, there was a group of professors in Ateneo who came here, and then they wanted to form this alumni association in Singapore of economics graduates.
Cool.
And we were talking about like, oh, are you eco honors? Eco ka ba? Or meco ka ba? Ganyan. Then we realized it doesn't even matter because it only matters in your first job. Or probably when you're applying
When they're
for grad
hiring.
school.
Okay.
After that, it's like how you manage your career. It doesn't even matter if you were like, I remember in at our batch, ME was like such, management engineering was such a hot course,
Correct.
right? It may not be as prestigious as it used to be because there are now new courses of, I think, like advanced math or applied math and finance, things like that. But
Whoa,
like,
okay.
I think the courses, they change, but what's important is like how you manage your time and if you can actually convince or if you've learned the necessary skills to work efficiently, right? Because like a lot of times some students are very good at taking tests but they're not very good in real life.
That's true. And I'm hearing that more and more now, so much so that it is actually a disadvantage presently if you come from what used to be the top 3 universities for hiring.
Why?
It has shifted because of, as you're saying, the attitude, how you handle your career. So that is shifting. Although there are still some courses like I have a friend who teaches sa com sci department and 100% ang hiring nila. Kasi
Yeah.
in demand. So, yung iba nahihirapan na and talagang iniiwasan na yung
Kasi
top
there's a feeling
universities.
of entitlement.
Yeah, so I think what you said is very important. Like, it's not even the course, but how you take care of your career. And
Yeah.
maybe you can share something about that because you are very successful. I mean, you were hired
Wow naman,
out of...
thank you.
No, I mean, very, very successful. So what is something they can take away from you when it comes to attitude?
So like, you know, when you're young, when you're studying, you have this idea of I'm gonna get into a really good university, then get into a really good job, and then I don't know, I'm gonna take an MBA or whatever. Then you make plans. And then you do everything that you can towards that plan. Sometimes it works out according to plan, but a lot of times it doesn't. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't go according to plan. Because like in my case, there was like I got into finance simply because I needed money to supplement my scholarship,
Okay.
and an internship in a Dutch bank paid me. That was
Okay.
it.
Okay, so it wasn't the grand plan.
No, it wasn't the grand
Really?
plan. My
Okay.
grand plan was to finish grad school in economics and then work for a multilateral organization like the IMF or ADB. Suddenly, I'm in finance, right?
Okay.
So when things don't go according to plan, it's a bit painful when that happens, but like there are always opportunities when you have things that are a bit chaotic.
Aha.
Yeah.
Kind of like the theme of last week.
Yes.
Pwede bang theme kung 1 week lang?
Oo, kasi
Okay,
until
okay.
now it's being reported pa rin by like Bloomberg and CNBC how things were so volatile. You know, actually, it's when things are moving that I feel that you have more space to shine.
Correct.
When things are perfectly in place, it's very difficult to find your space.
Especially if you're just starting,
Yeah.
diba?
So I remember when I first started here in Singapore, in the first bank that I worked at, I was so excited to join. And then after 3 months, the head of the chief economist for Asia resigned. Then his deputy resigned. I felt like I was rudderless. Paano ako matututo, diba? And I wanted to resign and I wanted to go to another bank because that other bank was hiring. And then one of the seniors in that bank told me, you have the opportunity to shine here.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like these senior people have left.
There is some chaos, kumbaga.
Yeah. So I had space to shine. I had space
Because
to
you're ready
talk to
to.
clients. Yeah, so like your hard work will prepare you for when the opportunity
Yes.
comes. But then that opportunity usually comes when it's chaotic.
So yeah, it's being prepared for those moments, eh? And I guess all the years of preparation, the studying, I guess also your values and all the
Yeah.
education that you've gotten.
Like you're
Yeah,
not entitled.
correct.
Just because you have this degree doesn't mean that you're not supposed to work as much. Right? Or just because you don't have a certain accent doesn't mean. Alam mo kasi,
Okay, tell us about this accent. So we're from Poveda.
ayan na naman.
We only said it in the end because we didn't want you to judge us.
Parang nahiya pa eh.
No, I mean, there is some shaming that goes on. And I did talk about that with Hermana Roslyn. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when you're from a school or a certain, circle, sometimes people like to shame you. And I'm like, why should I feel bad about having gone to school? Or, di ba?
Yeah.
Parang, doon ako lumaki eh.
Oh.
Paano ba yun?
Oh, at saka parang in the Philippines, we're so aware of the accents or like saying like, okay, thinking that like, oh, that person is not so comfortable speaking English. You can hear it from the accent. Ano bang accent yun? If you go outside of the Philippines, everybody has an accent.
Exactly. We are so critical about it. I don't know
Everybody
why.
has an accent.
Yeah.
So like the Swedes have an accent, the Italians have an
Right.
accent. So what matters is the content of what you're saying.
Right.
It may even be like it's inevitable that if it's not your first language, you're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that's fine. I mean, it won't be fine if you're a professor of English, right?
Yes.
That's different. But if you're not an English professor, you're not a journalist, it's inevitable that you would make mistakes when you speak. But what's important is that you're good at your job. And your job is not speaking English. Speaking English is a tool of a trade. It's not the be all and end all. And just
Right.
because you speak English doesn't mean you're smart.
Yeah, because we were having that discussion, of course, of why do some Filipinos who live in the Philippines, why do they not know how to speak in Filipino?
Yeah. I find
I
that
mean,
so sad.
Unless, of course, if they're from a different place, not Manila, and they speak a dialect or a different Philippine language.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least for the ones who study in Manila, a lot of them have refused
Yeah.
to speak in Filipino because they have their reasons. But for whatever reason that is, you were saying that, and I agree that people should be multilingual. You speak Spanish, Espanol. She speaks Espanol and now French.
Not fluently, diba?
But you take classes, like you
Yeah.
do one-on-one conversations
Yeah.
with your teacher.
Yeah.
Tama ba yan? Ano ba
Yeah.
yung tawag? Like a session, an hour session in the mornings. I remember when I
Yeah.
was here.
Yeah. So that at that time, I think I was studying French.
Spanish pa. ata.
Spanish, yeah. Now I'm studying French.
And my
And I
question was,
also went-
pogi ba yung teacher mo? Ba yan? Mga iniisip ko.
But I also went to Barcelona like for 2 weeks with one of our friends in high school. And then we went there to study to Spanish. But I think like speaking Tagalog or learning the language at the same time that you're speaking English is a skill. It's not necessarily that you speak Tagalog. It's the fact that you know how to learn a language. And it's the fact that when you're thinking in a different language, you're actually thinking in a parallel way. What I notice is my voice is actually very different when I speak English versus when I'm speaking in Tagalog. Or even my tone is different when I'm speaking French.
Uh-huh.
Like there are studies that show that like you have different personalities in different languages. So the ability that you're able to stretch the capability of your brain.
Yeah, and they say it's good brain exercise
It's
talaga.
very good brain exercise.
Kasi ayaw natin tumanda with dementia or
Yeah.
some kind of condition pa,
So,
diba?
and when we were young naman, I would like to think we were bilingual. Diba?
Yeah, for sure.
So, I don't understand why kids these days
Limit
in
themselves.
Manila, they only know English.
Yeah, but as I was saying, like Marianne, diba, we just teach the kids stupid stuff. Like, dito o, or nik-nik mo. And then they're more receptive to learning, or kulangot. I mean, sometimes you just have to make it fun also for the kids.
I think they need to learn how to play in the language.
Yeah, like what are the intricacies, diba? The things that make it ours. The things that make us laugh. That kind of kwelang laughter, diba? I think if you figure out how to tell them, kasi pang matalino lang yung dalawa-dalawa yung language. Parang you have to sell it well. That's my own take on it. And then if I fail, I'm like, forget this. I'm not even gonna talk to you. Ganun ako. I'm snooty about it. And my husband is actually very snooty about being wrong grammar in Filipino. Or having
Ang hirap
wrong
naman
grammar.
yan. Kasi from Poveda, medyo mataas talaga yung threshold. Mataas yung,
Hindi naman. Like,
yung ano natin na mali tayong grammar doon.
pa din is wrong. So every time I say pa din, I'm like, it's pa rin. And I'm like, I'm
Why
so
is
sorry.
it wrong? I don't understand.
Please find the tutorial. But it's online. I'll give you a cheat sheet. But pa rin is the correct one.
Oh.
Like tuloy pa rin the song. That's your thing to memorize. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
pretty snooty about that. I can't make too many grammar mistakes.
Yeah, but we try.
Yeah, we try very hard.
Yeah.
I was just explaining to my aunt when she said I misspelled pamilya because pangit yata yung isa kong pagsulat ng P, she thought it was F. I was like, I studied naman Filipino. And, I took Philosophy 101 in Filipino and also Philosophy 103 in Filipino where the thesis statements were in Filipino and you couldn't answer it na Taglish. It had to be straight Filipino. So I was like, I'm pretty okay. Plus, my husband is so snooty. So what am I gonna do? I like that he's particular with our own language. So that's quite cute and different.
But I think also, you feel different. The emotions are different. You know when you're angry and then you say something in Tagalog?
Do you want to say it? You can.
No, not really. When you're angry and you say something in Tagalog, talagang feel mo, na galit ka talaga.
Tagos sa buto.
Yeah.
Ganyan.
Whereas if you say it in English, it's just like, yeah, okay, got it. Diba?
It feels almost like fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly how my brain felt. Those words that she could not say. As it was a difficult conversation with you or difficult hour. But yeah, it's now the part that you were dreading. So I find that sometimes the guests come in with like a one-liner in mind already, but other times I think as the conversation flows, you figure out what you want people to remember you by, or what do you want to teach them for this theme, for this season in particular? Because I think we should have you back so that more people can be more
Nakaka-stress
financially, tama ba? Financially literate.
Stress ako.
No, don't be stressed. For me, the one thing you've imparted is that you want OFWs to really go home victorious in the biggest sense, and I think that stuck with me all these years. And I don't even know what you said. I do remember we were having wine that night, and we were in Robertson Key. There, that was
I don't remember.
because it was just
Marianne must have been there. Do you remember?
It was one of those nights that we were having cheese and then
Yeah.
wine. But you said it for sure, and I was so shocked. That
Look at me imparting wisdom at such a young age. I was just 13.
Siguro may 13 naman. But you were a teenager na. But yeah, I guess siguro, diba? I was like, wow, that's pretty selfless to have a wish for other people. I mean, you didn't say naman, I wish for them, ganyan. But for you to have a general sentiment of, I want them to have a better life because you see how hard they work. I mean, on the train, on the bus, we see a lot of Filipinos. And in restaurants, they feed me. I mean, the guy who gave me trays of sushi. I don't think he was earning that much, but he shared,
Yeah.
some food with me. So I have a soft spot in my heart for Pinoys here because,
Yeah,
parang,
kabayan.
diba? And
Yeah.
you do want what's best for them. And sometimes people take advantage of them. Sometimes they also don't know what is due them. So
Yeah.
that's why, for me, that is my one-liner for you, that you've always wanted the best for Filipinos, especially the ones who work so hard in hot Singapore, where sometimes the heat
Sticky.
index is intense. Diba?
Yeah.
You guys work hard here. So are you ready? One-liner? Do you want a one-liner?
A one-liner.
That I can repeat so that they can repeat it also. As just a guiding force in
Yeah,
life.
so I think I really thought hard about this. But because of the market movements last week, I think what's really important is when you want to save, you go according to your plan. But when things don't go according to plan, when your investment decisions were not or seem not to be the best at the time, don't despair, because in that chaotic moment, there are opportunities. So just be aware, just be calm, and carry on because there's going to be opportunities there.
Okay, I cannot repeat that, but I understood that. So press -10, -10, -10, and just repeat that. But that's good, no? I mean, because some people think it's the end of the world. And
Yeah.
I hate that about K-dramas when there's a moment when they think it's the end of the world because they have so much debt or whatever, for example. So what you're saying is that in those darkest of moments or the chaotic times, something good will happen if you can catch the opportunity, I think, also.
Yeah, be open to the opportunities. Yeah.
And prepare for it.
Yeah.
Prepare for the good things that are coming your way. Kasi
Because hard work prepares you for that
you
opportunity.
have to prepare din naman
Yeah.
talaga. I mean, that's one of the things. And if you're prepared, like your boss saw in you, that you were prepared and that you could be ready for that moment, then go,
Yeah.
diba? Take center stage,
Yeah.
diba?
But sometimes you're afraid, diba?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's
As long as you take the necessary
Yeah.
steps forward. So yeah, thank you for being here. I think this calls for a second episode with more phone-in questions.
Wow.
Wow, somebody just wants to go
Sometimes
back to
dapat si
Singapore.
Mariana.
I know, yeah, with more of the paveras.
Pavedans, hermana.
Ano, hermanas. Akala ko manangs. Hindi pa naman tayo manangs.
Di pa naman tayo manang
13 ka nga nag-start
Oo,
dito.
13 nga ako nag-start. So that makes me 26 now.
Correct. That's girl math for you. Well, thank you so much, Eugenia Victorino in the
Thank you.
house. Woohoo! See you again soon here in Singapore.